Ever since the ancient Greeks first understood Earth to be a globe, people have known that there must be a geographic northernmost point, the North Pole. Although the location of the North Pole was known in theory, no one had physically explored it. Lying in the middle of a freezing ocean covered in ever-shifting sheets of ice, where the sun doesn't rise for months on end, the North Pole remained untouched by humankind. That was until April 6, 1909, when Matthew Henson and Robert Peary became the first two people to reach the top of the world. Matthew Henson was a 12-year-old orphan when in 1878 he found work as a cabin boy, a young helper on a ship. Traveling around the world, he learned seamanship, geography, history, and math. When the ship's captain died, Henson took a job as a sales clerk at a clothing store. This would prove a fortuitous decision. In 1887, Robert Peary, a 31-year-old U.S. Navy Corps of Engineers lieutenant who had recently returned from exploring the Greenland ice sheet, went to a clothing store to get supplies for his next excursion. It was here that he met young Henson. The lieutenant was impressed with the clerk's knowledge and seafaring experience. Peary invited Henson to join him on future expeditions. Peary had a singular ambition to be the first man to reach the North Pole. In 1891, he and Henson explored Greenland, discovering its northernmost point and establishing that it was an island. During their year living in Greenland, they met the local Inuit tribes and, from them, learned essential Arctic survival skills. Henson especially embraced the culture. He mastered their language, constructed igloos, and learned to drive dog sleds and train the dog teams. Sled dogs were critical members of an expedition team, often sensing danger ahead of the men. Henson and Peary made 5 more historic trips to the Arctic, the region north of the Arctic Circle. In 1895, they charted the entire ice cap of Greenland. In 1897, they retrieved 3 giant meteorites from the Arctic ice and sold them to the American Museum of Natural History in order to finance their next expedition in 1902, where they would try, but not succeed, in their first attempt to reach the pole. In 1906, a new ice-cutting ship named the Roosevelt carried them farther north than previous vessels, and they were able to trek closer to the pole than any human had before. They knew they were still 174 miles shy of their target, but had to turn back because they were running out of food. Peary, who was 50 years old, and Henson, just 10 years younger, decided to make one final attempt. On March 1, 1909, Henson and Peary, along with a team of 22 men and 130 dogs, set out for the North Pole. As in previous attempts, they encountered constant hazards on the ice pack, steep mountains of ice called pressure ridges, and breaks in the ice that created open expanses of water called leads. Using a system he devised, Peary divided the men and dogs into 6 teams. Each team would reach its designated point along the path, build an igloo, and leave a cache of supplies for the return trips of the others before themselves turning back. On April 1st, after the last support team turned back, Henson and Peary began the final 5-day dash. On April 6th, taking many measurements with chronometers and sextants to verify their longitude and latitude, they confirmed that they were the first people to reach the geographic North Pole. Peary's accomplishment was honored with multiple awards. He died a celebrated admiral in 1920 and is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Henson, as a black man, was denied the recognition he deserved. Many years later, at the age of 70, he was granted admission to the prestigious Explorers Club. Before he died in 1955, he received a congressional medal and was honored by 2 presidents for his bravery. In 1988, Henson's body was reinterred at Arlington, close to his old friend.